and some Earl Grey, a pile of Mott's Fruit Station gummies. I am good to go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the Garden Revival BBQ. Garden Revival is an international gardening community on Discord. We record the episodes live and set them free into the world. Fly, birdie, fly. Join our community on gardenrev.com/Discord. We're not addicted to plants. We can stop anytime. We just don't want to. And by the way, BBQ stands for Big Burning Questions. They're submitted by our members for a panel of experts to answer. I am your host, IG, the server's illegal guardian. Co-hosting with me is my chauffeur, SpaceButler.
I was driving you around, and I was driving some plants around, so that was exciting.
Okay, he's not just my chauffeur, he's also my plant chauffeur. Yes. On the panel today are professional gardener Zappy Snaps.
Hi.
And the ecologist Passiflora.
Aloha.
Let's catch up, guys. It's finally spring, kind of. How's the weather in your part of the world?
Well, over here it's very variable at this time, and I know other places have far more variable weather, but we went from people are gonna laugh, but we went from our first 70-degree day to 27 degrees at night.
Yeah, we have snow and hail and sun and everything.
Normal. We got hail. There's snow in the forecast. Yeah, it's spring. It's you want to put things out, and you'd better make sure they're hardy things, because otherwise you're going to be sorry.
There's actually something very unusual about having spring around here. It's usually winter and then summer, and there's an actual spring. Even though I'm complaining about the hail and everything, it's spring. It's an actual spring. What about you, Passi? You're up there, up north?
Yeah, it rained for the first time this year. Up until now, it's only snow. Yeah, I was beside myself by that. I was a little bit shocked. I'm still having nighttime temperatures going down to about, I think in Fahrenheit it's 20 or 10. In Celsius it's -12, -10ish.
Yeah.
That's cool. We haven't yet hit the 20 degrees Celsius or 70 whatever degrees Fahrenheit day yet, but we're getting close. I'm super excited. I think next month I should be able to start putting plants outside, but until then, it rained. I was happy.
It's crazy. It's been just flooding. My backyard has just been soppy and gross, and we're just now finally having days where I can step on the grass and not hear wait, is the mic gonna make this sound go away? But it's sound.
Oh no, we heard that. That was loud and clear, actually.
We heard that one.
And it's kind of funny talking about the weather. It's usually a polite thing you ask people, but it is so important for gardening, especially in the spring when you're worried about your little babies.
Oh, yeah,
your little seedlings. You guys starting some seeds?
Oh, so many.
Yes. What is it? I want to know.
So many. I think I have a dozen kinds of tomatoes.
Yeah.
I've got basil. I've got some peppers. I've got dragon fruit. I've got papaya seedlings, because why not? And then, of course, the things that can actually survive outside right now. So lots of Swiss chard and kale and arugula and bok choy and, that kind of thing. That's very hardy and can just go out there and live.
Nice. Are you keeping everything you're starting, or are you giving some to your clients or friends?
Oh, well, I did start some seeds for my clients. Those were creeping thyme and some other things she wanted for her lawn. One of my clients wanted for her lawn. But I'm actually intending to sell some basil and tomato starts. I'm let's have a little sideline this year.
That's awesome. I tried last year for a neighborhood yard sale. Didn't work. Nobody wanted to pay money. Next morning, I gave them away for free. They went fast.
That's not fun.
I heard you're doing some romantic seed starting, Passi.
Well, I'm growing I decided this year the balcony garden can't look ugly. That was last year, so this year I want it to look nice, and I want it to look nice enough that my girlfriend actually wants to spend time on the balcony because she didn't do that. Because it was also not usable space because it was that full of plants. But this year I'm getting like a bunch of different flowers going. I went to the store and I kind of looked for like everything that would either be like white, blue, purple, or like, you know, a little bit of red, but mostly just like blues and purples and whites.
That sounds lovely. That's right up my alley. I thought you were into oranges and stuff.
I'm into oranges, but I know like bluish flowers everybody loves, and so I thought that'd be like a safe bet. And so I'm gonna get a bunch of like banister rail kind of like planters. I already have seeds all going right now. I think they're germinating. I haven't looked at them. My big concern is because I'm on the top floor of this building, is like if I have planters full of plants and like a windstorm hits really hard, you know, like what are the odds?
Can you get like giant zip ties?
I can, and I've actually considered things like that because I don't want a planter falling on anything, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's an engineering challenge.
It is. I mean, I'll figure it out. I got time, like because I'm north. I got like still like a month to go before I cut anything out there, so I can wait. No food plants though. I kind of didn't really have much space for that.
I admire that. Everybody's always like, I want to grow practical plants, but you know, there's practicality to beauty. It makes us happy.
I just really want to have a tomato plant though. I like the garden fresh tomatoes are just like the equivalent of like heroin or cocaine.
I would still give you some if you were closer and like not in a different country.
I'll just drive down.
Oh sure, yeah. You can help me with my garden too. Why am I always putting guests to work? This is horrible.
Is this what it's like, SpaceButler?
Better you than me. That's what I think.
Oh my god. And you're also making a giant orchid terrarium, you said?
I am, yeah. I have this like big glass cabinet behind me and I've been like slowly kind of pecking away at it. Work has been absolutely crazy, so I haven't had much time to kind of dedicate for it, which is disappointing. But
leave Passi alone.
Oh yeah. I've been meaning to contact this local orchid society because they grow like thousands of species of orchids, right? And they have like greenhouses, and they have one dedicated to just like really small orchids. And so because they're constantly growing and they have to, you know, divide them and then just toss out the extra orchid. I was going to contact them and see if, hey, you know, like if I slip you guys, you know, a pile of money, could you just like label them and just hand them to me? You don't even have to mount them.
Wait, why a pile of money? How about like cookies or something?
You know, they
People
like money.
Really go for cookies.
Well, they're a non-profit charity, right? They have cookies. I've been there. The cookies are stale, but they have cookies already.
Wait, so they're throwing these away? Is it like orchid dumpster diving?
Oh my god.
Oh gosh, that sounds fun.
Tempting. Yeah, I kind of want to do that.
The new Olympic sport for the new era.
But yeah, no, they toss out so many. I mean, they have like a lot of the orchids that they grow. They're so, you know, like tropical, or they have just such finicky needs that like they're not really a good houseplant. And so like if they were to like sell them to people as a houseplant, you know, you'd have it for like 3 or 4 weeks and then it would just kind of die because you don't have it at a high enough humidity. But, you know, for someone like me where I'm building something that'll house that, it works out for both of us.
That's cool. Yeah. I don't even know where one would start with an orchid terrarium, like lights, humidity, all that stuff. It's, you know, sciencey.
It's fun. It's like there's so much stuff out there for like learning how to do it, which is really useful. And I know a lot of people who build these things for fun, which is probably a better resource, I would say, than just, you know, like looking it up myself, because there's a lot of people out there who just set up something that's not really what I want. And, you know, I'd rather talk to people who I can like explain a little bit of what I want to do, and they've done that so that they can give me good, advice.
Yeah. And the gardening community is great. People are good with sharing information.
But yeah, it'll be super fun once it's done and going. I want to have like a little waterfall inside of it.
Oh my god.
That sounds wonderful.
Oh, sounds heavenly. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you were also grafting cacti.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the cacti seeds that I started last summer, they're finally getting up to that like size where I could leave them, and a large number of them will, die off or whatever because I'm gone for so long of the, so much of my time just like working out in the field. I can't take care of them all that well. And so like they can frequently just dry out to the point where they like kick the bucket. And so if I graft the seedlings onto like larger, faster growing cacti, they grow up much faster, and I can get them to stages where they're more resilient and they can handle, not being babied as much.
All right, that's cool. Because I was going to ask you what the benefit is. Now I know.
Yeah, they grow much, much faster, especially like some cacti I have growing right now that are seedlings. They grow at a rate of about 1 millimeter per year.
Oh, no.
Which to anybody who doesn't use metric, a millimeter would be like 1/26 or 120, between 1/25th and 1/26th of an inch per year.
Yeah.
So it's way too slow.
Yeah, that's some patience. And I thought trees were slow, but okay, cacti are slow. Oh. Zappy, you're doing lots of cleanup these days, aren't you?
Yeah, because for anyone who doesn't know, I do gardening work, maintenance, and everything, and a lot of people really paid attention when people started saying, "Hey, leave your garden debris over the winter to house the pollinators." So it's now spring.
Yep.
So, and like I said, we've had our 70-degree weather, so it's cleanup. It's a lot of cleanup and a lot more cleanup. Which is kind of a funny shift because it used to be people are like, yeah, get the garden tidied up for winter and have it look all perfect. And now it's like, okay. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of stuff likes to start growing before people are really, sure that the insects and other things that are using the debris from last year are ready to go. So you have to be a little more careful. But, there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of planting new things. And because what I like to do with my gardens and what a lot of my clients like is I'm like, hey, so I've noticed you don't have anything happening in this season. So let's add some more flowers or whatever else that'll be interesting. So it's bringing those ideas in. And
that's something I really need to do because for some reason, a lot of the flowers that I'm just in love with and I've planted are very early bloomers. And then my garden is just like done, and that's not good.
Oh, no. Yeah, you gotta have your spring and then also your through summer into fall sort of things. So yeah.
That's something I really want to focus on this year. I don't know how successful I'll be because once again, I just start stuff that looks pretty and then it ends up all blooming at the same time.
Oh no. Yeah. I really like asters for the summer into fall, along with hardy fuchsias and crocosmia. Those guys are great.
We'll see if my crocosmia that I planted last year comes back. I put it in the ground very late in the fall, so I'm not sure. I haven't seen any emerge yet, but I have no experience with it. Don't know.
It's a little slower than some other things. So.
Okay, there's still hope. And asters, I would absolutely love asters. I bought some last year, and the wildlife loved them.
A little too fond.
So I ordered more this year. They will probably get eaten again, but I'll keep trying because I really do like them a lot. Yes, thank you.
It just means that some other animal also really likes them. So it just works out for everybody.
The animals. Okay, I know we're all supposed to love the bunnies and be all wildlife friendly, but all the things that they did not want to eat during the growing season last year, they ate in the winter because they were desperate.
No.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't blame them, but I lost a lot of plants from that.
That's rough.
Yep.
Yeah. Just gotta say, around here, it's kind of interesting figuring out what the deer will leave alone because, you have your list of deer resistant plants.
Mm-hmm.
And, in one, I have these two people right next to each other. And in one person's yard, they do not touch the alliums. They do not touch the ornamental chimes or anything. And the next person's yard, they just mow them down. And it's like, guys, can you at least be consistent? But no.
Very inconsiderate.
Very.
Yes. Who do I complain to? Okay, here's my question to you, Zappy. What is a goat moat?
A goat moat. A goat moat is a very useful invention for people who live in Himalayan blackberry country, where you make a moat around your house, but instead of it being filled with water, it's filled with goats, which then eat the blackberries and prevent them from invading your yard. And for people who aren't familiar, around here, Himalayan blackberries are a menace, and their canes can grow 30 feet in a year, and they start rooting where they touch the ground and start a new plant there. So these are a serious problem. I also like goats, so it's a nice excuse. but yeah, really, I'm very pleased with our goat moat, and it's doing very well.
Well, yeah, it sounds like it's the greatest of all time. Your goat moat?
Yes. It's also really fun. It makes pruning other people's shrubs and trees much more fun because the goats love to eat shrubs and trees in general. Like, I will prune someone's apple tree and they will eat the twigs.
So
they will
take
skin
home, you take the clippings home.
Yeah. Yep. And it's enrichment for the goats. Like, they have plenty of food. They have their alfalfa, they have their hay, but, oh, that rose that someone had me prune, they are all over that.
Yeah. What kind of trees are you pruning this time of year?
Well, we're a little past. Yeah, we're in the slow season right now for pruning. Like, when they're dormant, there's a lot of apple trees that are like, they're in the older way of maintaining apple trees where you have to cut off water sprouts and it's tedious. Mm-hmm. But like, there's a lot of apple, there's a lot of roses, fruit trees are often dormant pruned, although there's newer thinking on that for maintaining them.
Yeah. I know you have a lot of opinions on some tree pruning mistakes that you've seen.
I have lots of opinions, yes.
What other beginner mistakes would you say you've seen?
It's not even a beginner mistake because people are really attached to it, but they will do what they call topping, where they draw an imaginary line across the top of the tree and they just cut there, regardless of how thick the branch is. Like, that's just a terrible idea. It's opening up your tree to, diseases and lots of water sprouting and like really vigorous. Like, there's a lot of regrowth, but the attachment of the new growth is weaker. So those branches are more prone to breaking off and, opening up new wounds. And so that my thing I would like people to think about before they start pruning is, first off, why are you really pruning? Can you maybe just let the tree be as tall as it is? And also, if you really are trying to reduce its size, find a side branch that is at least half the diameter of the branch you want to remove and cut back to that. Because that'll help prevent the water sprouting that happens otherwise.
I am taking notes furiously. And pruning trees is something that I know very little about, and I really need to know more about.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice intersection, in my opinion, between art, like the form of the tree, and the science of the tree and how the hormones interact and what you're really doing. And then some people take a Japanese maple and they're like, I'm going to cut just a straight line across. And you're like, why did you do that? Yeah.
I think now our listeners want their questions answered.
Probably.
What do you think, SpaceButler? You're ready?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. Are you guys ready?
Are you guys ready?
Sure.
Sorry if you hear like a weird purring sound, by the way. Like the cat's just constantly jumping up on my lap here.
Unfortunately, I do not hear the kitty.
Oh, good.
Oh, I'm sad. I like kitties.
All right. Pika asks, how can I speed up the growth of my basil cuttings? I'm very impatient. Foliar spray?
Well, what I usually do is I keep them toasty. And people's definition of toasty is different, of course. I keep mine, if I really want them to grow fast, I'll make sure they're somewhere where it's, around 75 degrees. And I'll make sure there's plenty of fertility and they have plenty of water and plenty of light. And that's pretty much it for me.
I find keeping humidity up helps a lot, especially with cuttings. You don't want it to be like maxed out. Like you don't want it to be like to the point where it's like basically underwater. But you definitely want, like if you have a humidity dome or anything like that, strongly recommend using a humidity dome just to make sure that the cutting doesn't, because like a cutting, it doesn't have roots, right? But it's got leaves, so it'll keep trying to like photosynthesize, but it can't get water. And so until it grows roots, it's, going to get dehydrated. I know back when I was working in this one cannabis growing company, they used foliar spray. And they had it, with like some like watered down nutrients and whatnot. And the people there swore by it and they kept talking about how great it was. But then every time I kept trying to bring up, hey, maybe we should just try spraying it with some, reverse osmosis water and seeing if these see if these cuttings do better or worse than the other ones. It never got tested, which is kind of disappointing because I feel like that would be a really cool thing to test out. So unfortunately, I don't have personal experience on whether or not foliar spray works.
Yeah, I've never tried the foliar spray. I will say on the humidity, higher humidity is definitely exactly what you said. And then don't do it too much. I have a propagation tank that I use for fancier plants that's like about 100% humidity. And I did try basil in there and they did not like it. Like I had 2 containers. I had one just in my room that is full of plants, so it's higher humidity than the rest of the house anyway. And then one pot in the humidity chamber, and they just did not like it.
What happened?
Yeah. They just didn't grow roots. And then they eventually rotted away, which is weird because, usually in my experience, if you keep basil cuttings warm enough and moist enough, they do really well. And these guys did not. Which is kind
I tried it.
But...
I tried it with crazy high humidity for a couple cuttings recently, and they just melted. So same experience.
Yeah, and it's like some things really do appreciate that high humidity.
Totally.
But definitely not basil.
Okay. Leon asks, why do some plants revive after dying? My spire moss revived after watering, after it died from drying out.
I like this question. I really, really like this. So especially with, I'm assuming maybe there was a small typo with spire moss to maybe mean spike moss. However, just because I've never heard of spire moss, but I know with mosses, what they do two things. Not all of them, just the ones that I've read about. They do two things that are really important for them for their survival right before essentially they get totally dehydrated. And mosses are really, really well adapted to surviving for crazy long periods of time, totally dehydrated, like dried out, like a dead piece of crap. Basically, what they do is they produce these things called mRNA transcriptions. It's basically just like a little piece of molecular biology kind of machinery that just tells the DNA what parts should get kind of used right away. And what it does is it makes these mRNA transcription kind of modifiers that specifically tell the DNA fixing proteins, to get produced. But then it packs these up into these little packages in these kind of dry, like desiccation resistant little packages inside the cell as it's drying out. And so what happens is the entire cell dries out and it just metabolic activity stops. Effectively the cell is dead because nothing's happening. It's just stopped. But then the thing is, the moment it gets rehydrated, that little package can open up and those transcription modifiers kick into gear and they immediately get DNA fixing proteins getting produced and then working. And so it immediately gets the cell to start kind of working back up and going again. And
wow.
The reason why mosses in particular are really good at this is because mosses live on the surface of things because they're so small and cute, right? Like the very, very, very crust of soil, right? That it dries out. It dries out super fast and it dries out really frequently. And so mosses have evolved this kind of whole machinery, this really cool mechanism to avoid dying every 2 days whenever it dries out by just essentially shutting off. And we can take mosses that have been under glaciers for 800-900 years, and you just take them, hydrate them up, get them going, and they'll just kick right back into gear and start working again, which is so cool that they've done that. Yeah, they can just sit there doing nothing for hundreds of years. That's such a cool question. I'm so glad that somebody asked something about that. I love that.
Yay.
Yeah, it sounds like The Thing. You go to Antarctica, you find something growing under the thing, and it gets exposed to air and wakes up, and then you have a beautiful moss, right? Yeah.
It sounds like
a great horror movie idea, but I would still watch it.
I think that has a very limited appeal, but you're in the target demo for that.
I think I'm the only person in the targeted demographic for that.
But throw some sci-fi in, it'll get more people.
Oh, okay. So, Velociraptor asks, if we take the leaf or node with the best variegation and propagate it, will it continue its genetics like seeds from giant produce producing giant veggies or fruits too?
So I think we talked about this a little bit forever ago. I guess it depends on what you mean by reproducing it, right? Like if you take a cutting and you just grow it up and you keep taking cuttings off of it, you're still getting that kind of propagation of the variegation. But if you take the cutting and you grow it up into a plant and you get seeds off of the plant, the seeds aren't going to show variegation, or at least they're not going to show variegation in the same way as much. There's a couple a very, very small amount of genetic things related to variegation, but it's not a guarantee at all. So if people are claiming it's going to be variegation, they're actually just selling you snake oil. Which is disappointing, right? Because if you could grow variegated plants from seed, that'd be so easy. But yeah, unfortunately, variegation, it's like a mutation, a lot like a skin mole in human beings, where it's
Okay.
Yeah, it's like
Make that appealing, why don't you?
Yeah, right. I hope you're all having dinner or something fun. But yeah, it's like that where it's like, there's a mutation in skin cells and they produce like a lot of myelin, I think it is, or whatever that.
Melanin.
Yeah, thank you.
Science teacher.
I haven't had any caffeine today, so I'm pretty tired.
Oh no.
I know. But yeah, the skin cells get a mutation. They produce what eventually becomes like a mole, right? But like if that person has a child, it's not like the genetics in those skin cells get passed on. And so, maybe they had a genetic reason why they're more predisposed to getting moles, and maybe that gets passed on to the kid, but the kid's not going to end up with skin moles in the same spots, just like their parents. And the same thing is with plants, where like these mutations in cells that cause them to not have chlorophyll, producing variegation, right? There could be a slight genetic component to that, but it's really not that strong. And the thing is, if it goes and reproduces sexually, the thing is its offspring isn't going to have the same variegation. So yeah, you plant variegation just like a skin mole. I'm really
tagline. Total tagline for the episode.
And then to add on to that, sometimes even with vegetative propagation, where you are just taking a cutting and growing that out, some variegation is impacted by how intense the light is or how humid and warm it is. So
totally.
There's not necessarily a guarantee, right? And people who are really into houseplants will talk about stable versus unstable variegation. And there's a lot to it, but one example is one of my Tradescantias has a lot of variability in its white variegation, and like some leaves will be what they call half moon and some will just be kind of stripy. And if I do take those cuttings and put them in different pots, there will be a tendency towards, say, if I make a pot full of half moon cuttings, there will be a tendency towards more half moons. But it's not 100%, and it's not a guarantee, So even when you are vegetatively propagating, it's not even 100%.
I'm so happy you used that as an example, because I'm looking at my Tradescantia right now and thinking how to get it to kind of display the best of itself, which, is the skin molliest part.
Yeah, I was going to say, is my skin mole analogy not good enough for you guys? I don't feel appreciated.
I love irrigation so much.
Yeah, it's the plant skin mole. You're welcome.
Oh. Fun times.
All right. Velociraptor asks, is it advisable to put in hygroscopic substances like rice or salt in seed packets instead of silica gel packets? DIY silica gel packets, is that a possibility?
I know I could get silica gel, like loose silica gel from craft stores. Just because like people like to dry out flowers, and so they'll just like essentially put it inside of this like a bin of it. That being said, I don't know like whether or not to use like salt or rice, because I like silica gel's just such a good dehydrator. Yeah, and so like compare that to rice, where like rice will take in moisture from the air, but I don't know if it's necessarily as good. And I'm not sure how well seeds can handle being dried out to the point of being like that dry. Maybe Zappy, you have more experience with that?
I mean, I think it depends again on the type of seed. And every seed's going to be slightly different, but I would hesitate. And, my first mental image was just pouring salt in with the seeds. Please don't do that. Because I just have it. Because, the other thing is salt, at least where I am, it's humid enough that the salt will pull enough moisture from the air that will actually form salt water. And I just can't imagine that being good for anything that does not, travel through the ocean. Like some seeds do, coconuts, they're probably fine, but you're probably also not asking about storing coconuts. I don't see the harm in rice. I would suggest opening up a tea bag and putting the rice in a tea bag instead of loose with the seeds, just in case. But
oh, that will be so fun to pick out the seeds from the rice.
I mean, that was my first mental image. I was just like, oh dear, please no.
So the seeds you're growing are also rice?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so the recommendation seems to be silica gel. Try to get bulk craft silica gel and do it that way.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm saving vegetable seeds, right? And flower seeds, like pretty common seeds. And like even the silica is pretty optional, and I really just save the seed, the little packets that come in with my vitamins or whatever. Like I'm not going to go out and buy it. It's not actually necessary. It's just
reuse.
Yeah, I have like a pile of coin envelopes, and then I have like a little like flashcard holder thing. I just put the seeds in a coin envelope and just shove it in that card holder thing. It's not organized. They're falling out of those coin envelopes. I'm not trying to talk myself up. It's a mess. But like I don't try and dehydrate it. Like I don't think you have to worry too much about that.
I know we've had conversations about proper seed storage, but I'm going to make a admission here. I collected some dianthus seeds a couple of years ago, I think at this point, and they're just sitting in an open plastic container, like on the counter all the time, just exposed to kitchen humidity, light, lots of fluorescent light, and I sowed some and they germinated. So
yeah. Well, I have two more stories that are like, seeds are really hardier than some, at least. I had a client back in 2020 who had some Flanders poppies, and I wanted some seeds, and so I took some seeds, and I had them like drying on a tray on my porch where they wouldn't get wet from the rain, and my roommate put them in the rain, and it was so like they had already been drying for a while, and I was so ticked off, and it was 100%. I was like, she's just killed my seeds. But you know what? I sowed some this year, and they're coming up just fine, right? And then for even worst seed storage conditions ever, I collected seeds from my Swiss chard. I think it was last year, might have been the year before, and I had a friend who was supposed to pick up some, so I put them in my mailbox, and they never did, and I was just so busy I never remembered to pull them back out. So they were in my mailbox when it was 110 degrees. They were in my mailbox when it was freezing. When I finally took the bag out, there was mold in there, and you know what? I was like, these seeds aren't going to grow. I threw them down, and they came up just fine.
Amazing.
So sometimes plants are a lot hardier than we give them credit for.
Well, seed heads dry in the plants and they stay there over the winter with the rain and with everything, and then they fall down and they germinate.
Yeah. So, yeah. And of course, that's not true for everything. Like, I think it's pawpaws, like the tree. Not pawpaws as in papayas, but pawpaws. Like, you have to start those fresh, right? Like you can't let them dry out or anything. So some are super delicate, but a lot aren't.
You say right as if I would know. I don't know.
It's funny that you mentioned pawpaw seeds, because I've now ordered pawpaw seeds this year alone from 3 different vendors, and every single one of them have sent me dry seeds. Every single one. I even asked one of them, I was like, do you guys cold stratify them? Are they gonna arrive in like moist vermiculite or something? And the guy was like, yeah, absolutely. Dry as a bone envelope.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just raging about this.
That is so frustrating. And I want to grow those so bad, and they should be able to grow out here, but like I don't even know what they taste like, but I want to know.
That's all I want to know. I just want to know what they taste like, and the fact that they can actually grow in my climate, which is just unbelievable. But yeah,
Wouldn't it be funny if they tasted just like that gummy candy that you're hoarding?
I've consumed most of that at this point.
Yeah, pawpaws are supposed to be pretty common in the wild, but they're never they're not cultivated for some reason.
Well, what I heard is that their fruit is too soft to really travel well, so they're not easy to sell.
It's not commercially viable.
Yeah. But one of my favorite nicknames for them, someone calls them the hillbilly mango. I'm just like, okay. Because they're I think they're the largest fruit that's not a watermelon or something that's native to North America, right? The largest tree fruit. And I'm just like, I want to try it.
They're supposed to be very good. I've never had one either.
Someday.
Very curious.
All right. So Philosopher Raptor asks, why don't roots rot in water in a hydroponic situation, but they rot in wet soil?
So the explanation I've found is that in water or in a hydroponic situation, the water's oxygenated, and in waterlogged soil, it goes anoxic. So the microbes in the soil use up whatever oxygen is there, and that creates the anaerobic conditions that I think it's a bacterium. There's a bacterium that likes anoxic conditions and causes root rot. So it's not necessarily because your soil, like the roots aren't just rotting because they're wet. They're rotting because there's that pathogenic bacteria in the soil, and that bacteria enjoys those or thrives in those anoxic conditions.
Okay, that makes sense. I learned something there.
For a large amount of plants too, they've also evolved root systems that, the root cells do need oxygen to some extent.
Yes.
But, because the wet soil is so anoxic, the roots cells start dying off because they just can't breathe. Yeah.
And I actually saw one of the fun things around here. There's a lot of creeks and wetlands that have these huge Doug firs growing in them, or western red cedars, and it's really fun, kind of, because they will fall over because they have incredibly shallow root systems because of how wet and waterlogged the soil is. So, they'll have a root system on this massive tree that only goes a foot down.
Wow.
And so, when we have a windstorm, they're incredibly vulnerable, so they'll topple, and you'll get to see their roots, and it's pretty neat. But there's a demonstration of, the roots don't want to grow down into that wet soil. Mm-hmm. And of course, then there's the ones that have adapted to that situation, where they've developed ways to move oxygen into the roots. I think mangroves are one of them. So, yeah. I did see this article about a variety of corn they found that. So, you know how corn can have air roots? So, this specific variety of corn has air roots and has a symbiosis with bacteria so they can actually fix nitrogen. And that is so cool.
That is actually really cool. That's super cool.
Because usually that's a legume thing, not a grass thing. It's what are you doing? So anyway,
I love your enthusiasm so much.
So they just have roots in the air.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Huh. Interesting.
It's
living
really
off of humidity.
And this is not normal corn. I do believe it's somewhere super humid, and I read it last year, so I don't have all the details, but it's super cool. Yeah.
I wonder if that corn, it's probably not one of the tasty corns, unfortunately.
I don't know. It's not one of the main cultivated varieties, that's for sure. But its genes could be used. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Because one of the problems with corn cultivation is just how nitrogen hungry they are. Like they really want a lot of nitrogen. So having this ability to fix some of their own is pretty neat.
Especially
cool.
because the alternatives really are like using fertilizers, which even if they take up all the nitrogen, which they don't, we use fertilizer salts. And so you're still leaving a large amount of salt just in the soil, and that builds up over time. So yeah, that's super cool.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to that super corn in 5 years. So
That's going to be a sequel to the super moss.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay, so Radio Vic is asking about the favorite and least favorite herb to grow for each of you.
I think my favorite is basil, just because I love pesto so much.
Yum, yum.
And, also Thai basil. Wonderful. Least favorite, I feel like I like all herbs, really. Like, I'm pretty sure you can't point me at an herb that I would not love to have.
Yeah.
But having said that, where I live, oregano is actually weedy. It will spread, and it spreads not just by runners like normal mint family friends do. They spread by seed. So,
which species of oregano is that?
I don't
Just
know.
all of them.
Yeah, it's oregano.
Oh dear.
Like oregano and lemon balm both, like they come up so much, and people are like, does anyone want some oregano? Does anyone want some lemon balm? Which is like, that's a nice problem to have, I think. There's other things that are far worse.
I actually would like to grow some oregano, which I believe is oregano vulgare. I don't know.
That sounds right.
But yeah, I'm concerned about the spreading, but the flowers look so pretty.
I mean, you can responsibly have oregano and lemon balm. You just need to make sure you cut down the flower stalks before they set seed, which is not that hard if you only have one oregano plant.
Oh, I can't just have one. What?
Okay.
I have some Greek oregano with some white flowers that were beautiful last spring. And I don't think they've spread too bad, but I think it's the Italian that is the menace.
That sounds right.
I could be
That sounds
wrong.
likely. I mean, I never sat down and ID'd it. It's just like, oh, here's more oregano. Oh, here's more oregano. Oh, more. It really does well.
What about you, Passi?
Ooh. Okay.
Oh.
I think
Got Passi excited again.
okay, so for my favorite, I recently picked this up, so I don't know if I should say it's my favorite right now, but I mean, I love it. I picked up a curry plant.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, it smells so good. I just want to put that entire plant in my mouth, but I know I shouldn't because then it'll die. And so yeah, it's just like I just love curry, and it just smells so good. Like you disturb that plant even a little bit, and it just like the entire room smells like curry. So
nice.
I like that. But my least favorite, I've tried growing it a number of times, and every time it's germinated and then just died. Is Himalayan rhubarb. It's a rhubarb species from the Himalayan. And so it's rhubarbs being rhubarbs. They grow these crazy huge root systems. But the thing is, it's like you have to treat it like an alpine plant. And so they really want like humidity and super crazy bright light, but also cold. And also no standing water and a bunch of other things. And so, like, I can germinate them. But I've never managed to get one to grow.
Yeah, that sounds really difficult.
And I think they grow, like, 3-meter deep root, like tap root. So it's like this massive tap root. And so that's why I want it. But the thing is, like, it's just such a pain to grow, but I want it. They also look tremendously ugly. Like I gotta say, if you guys Google Himalayan rhubarb, there's just like I don't think regular rhubarbs look like this. They have these cool protective leaves to protect themselves from the UV light of just where they grow. And so they just look weird.
They look like an elongated cabbage to me, kind of.
Yep.
They're kind of funny looking.
Oh yeah, they look like cones.
Yeah. It's super weird, hey? And it's like they look bleached almost.
Yeah.
All right, I'm Googling it now.
I posted it in the channel.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that is weird. Okay. I was about to say I have, I don't know, like 10 varieties of basil seeds that I would really like to start at some point because they've just been sitting there. I just want to see like all the different sizes. Like there's like cabbage leaf varieties with like giant leaves. Basil was the first thing I successfully grew from seed, from seed at all. And it was so easy and I loved it and I felt so good about myself. But last year, as a much more experienced gardener, I had such bad luck with it. It got some sort of fungal disease.
Oh.
And I just felt like, how did I screw up basil? But someday maybe I'll have the basil garden. But yeah, how could you not love any herb? I can't imagine a least favorite herb. It's just that one experience with basil, but
I feel like there's some that are more, acquired taste, or people just might not be as familiar with them. But yeah, I really like herbs.
I like especially variegated herbs because, me and variegation, that beautiful skin disease. I actually bought some today, some variegated thyme and oregano and sage.
Does it taste different?
I think they all taste a little different on all the cultivars. But to be honest, I just grow them because they're pretty.
All right. Next, Velociraptor asks, how does I don't know how to pronounce this word, vivipary occur in plants? Like vivipary in sunflower looks like an alien thing. It isn't just a simple seed germination while still being attached. How do fruits grow inside fruits? Like in some bell peppers, there's a small pepper inside of the larger one.
I love this question. It's such a good question. Because vivipary is so weird. I don't know how to pronounce it. I say vivipary. I assume that's correct. I haven't looked it up. I'm not going to.
Passiflora is going to name his firstborn Vivipary.
Yeah, I'm probably going to get bullied for mispronouncing it or something. Or the kid is. But vivipary, I'll explain for people who may not know right away. Vivipary it's essentially live birth. It's where the organism is born while still attached to the mother. So humans are viviparous animals. We give live birth, whereas snakes, they lay eggs. The egg, it's developing, but it's not right away this snake, right?
You could have used a duck as an example.
Yeah, I like this. Or spiders, No. Actually, there are some spiders that give live birth. So that's a bad example. I saw that, and it's really gross looking. But anywho, so
gosh, now I'm imagining that. That's unpleasant.
Yeah, I'm not going to describe it. So plant vivipary, because that's where I'm at. Plant vivipary, it's essentially just like a seed will germinate while it's still attached to the mother. And there's essentially 3 flavors of vivipary. There's true vivipary, there's cryptovivipary, and then there's pseudo-vivipary. And I'll kind of explain what they are after, but the big thing is basically they germinate while attached to the mom. Now, the thing about this, which is weird, and really weird for plants, is plants don't want that. They don't want their babies near them for a lot of reasons that they probably don't know, but they don't want their babies near them. First and foremost is a baby plant has the exact same needs as the mom. You could think of it as like how if I'm in a forest and I'm living by myself, right? And I'm just like living off the land and there's a deer living off the land also in this forest. We both need water. We both need food. But how we're getting that and what we're getting and where we're getting it, totally different. Whereas if I'm living in this forest where I think I'm by myself and there's another human being living in this forest, also living off the land, our needs are so similar that we're going to be competing for these resources potentially without realizing. And so plants, it's the same thing. You can have two plants that are different species and totally different families. They have very different needs, similar in some senses. They both want sunlight and water, but how they do it, what they do, and where they get it, it's going to be slightly different. But if they're the same species, those needs are so similar that they really start to overlap and they start competing. And a mother plant, nobody wants to see their kids fighting because it's loud and annoying. Mother plants don't want to see their kids fighting because the closer a kid is to the mom, the more likely it is to just die. Or if it's growing with its siblings, it's competing with its siblings, which is just not good for the plant. And so plants have evolved a lot of these different methods of just reproducing where they get their seeds, they package them up in some way, shape, or form, and they get those seeds away. They just send those suckers flying. They do whatever they can to just get their seeds gone, right? And vivipary then is weird because vivipary, it does the opposite, right? It gets the seed germinating on mom. And plants can't get up and walk around. And so when it's germinating on mom, that means that it's there and it's there potentially to stay, right? So that's weird. When you think about just the fact that like there are plants that do the opposite of what every other plant wants to do, that's strange. And there's other things too, like, because plants can't move, they're covered in diseases. Plants have diseases, they get covered in diseases, and so the closer they are to mom, the more likely they are to get those diseases and die. There's a lot of science to show that the closer a seed germinates to like a mother tree, for instance, you can just see it just this like just exponential growth of babies dying, which is sad. Wow. And so so there's a lot of evolutionary reasons for these seeds to just not want to be by mom, right? They want to leave the nest and the tree that the nest is on, and they want to get away. And so vivipary doing the opposite, you kind of have to question like, okay, well, why is it doing that? And the thing is, unfortunately, the examples you give were a little bit hard because like I haven't seen sunflower vivipary. I know there's like some photos going around where there's like weird flowers developing within a floral disc of another one, but that's not really vivipary. But then there's other ones where they do have that, like there's some cacti that have it. There's some grasses that have pseudo-vivipary, and pseudo-vivipary is where instead of it producing a seed and germinating while attached to mom, instead of producing the seed, it just immediately produces a new plant. And it just makes this clone of this plant and it grows off. To allude to earlier, actually, mangroves do vivipary. And if you Google up mangrove tree vivipary, they look very weird. I'm not going to lie, it looks really odd. And then cryptovivipary is where a seed germinates within a fruit, but it doesn't break out of the fruit. And that might be bell peppers. I don't know if bell peppers are considered vivipary or if it's actually like a fruit is developing just within another fruit, because it's not really a plant developing, it's just another bell pepper in a bell pepper inception. So it's vivipary is really weird. There's only like maybe 100 species of plants that have vivipary at all, and then of that, only half of them have true vivipary because it's just so weird and it's just so strange. And the only plants that do show to have it, they're plants that grow in either really, really weird marshy environments where like turns out getting away from mom either results in the seed just ending up in the open ocean or ending up in just another shitty environment. So it's like, why bother? Try and get away. Or they end up in the Arctic. A lot of other viviparous plants end up either in the Arctic or desert or these like weird marshy zones.
What about orchid keiki? Is that an example of vivipary?
Sorry, which one is that? Orchid,
like the keiki? Am I pronouncing it right? Keiki?
I
The
don't
little
know.
baby that forms
Yeah.
on the flower
Stalk of an orchid,
I wouldn't count that as vivipary because it's not growing from a seed.
Okay.
So, like,
Yeah.
because, like,
So
vivipary should, like, it's live birth, so it should be
Yeah.
from a seed.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so the other ones are pseudo-vivipary, where it's actually produces a plant in lieu of producing a seed or like that kind of stuff. So that could be what that is. Or there's crypto-vivipary, where it's the seed germinates in the fruit but then doesn't actually, break out. I'll post a photo of crypto-vivipary of a tomato. It looks weird. It looks like
It's
it looks like a
creepy.
mistake. It looks like a mistake that shouldn't be.
So
I
are
really don't
those
like it.
mutations?
Usually it's a mistake where the seeds germinate because like the germination hormones that inhibit the seeds from just sprouting in the fruit, they're just not present, I'm pretty sure. But it could be evolutionary. It could, because I guess, evolution really is just like nature's happy little mistakes. But it's really odd. It's a really odd thing that some plants do. There's a grass near me that does it, or does cryptovivipary, and it's so cool. I want to find it. Yeah, I just posted that weird looking tomato thing. You guys can indulge in that because it's ugly.
I'm wondering if those are safe to eat because tomato leaves aren't really good to eat, right?
That's
Well,
true.
you can just scoop them out, like the tomato itself.
Yeah.
Although, depending on how far they've gone, it's like, do you want to go to that much work?
Yeah.
I think you could just get another tomato.
Well, maybe that's the last tomato you have.
That's fine.
Is you're on an island?
Yeah, you're in a desert isle. And, Gilligan isn't helping much.
All right. Next question. Velociraptor asks, do things like starch water, leftover water from boiling rice, or other similar substances, eggshell powder, tea leaves, fish blood water, or rice wash water actually provide nutrients or help plants grow, or is that a myth? This is a big topic. A lot of people ask in the in the server.
I've mentioned tons.
Well, and there's a lot of different substances in that list.
Yeah.
So the answer is it depends on which one you're talking about. So, like with starch water, that's, if you think about it, starch is just carbohydrate, and the plants photosynthesize to make their carbohydrate. So that's not super helpful to the plants. And what's actually, sidetrack, but it's actually kind of cool because some plants actually produce, they have root exudates, so they put carbohydrates out through their roots to feed symbiotic bacteria in the soil. So that's interesting. So in like a houseplant situation, the starch water is not going to really do much, if anything. But on the other hand, with the eggshells, if you grind them up real fine and you happen to live somewhere where there is a calcium deficiency in your soil and you know that, then that could be of some benefit for like the outdoors. And then fish blood is another thing. So blood carries oxygen in the hemoglobin. So blood is rich in iron because of its hemoglobin, and it's rich in nitrogen because it's, proteins. So that's a really rich fertilizer. Like some people like to put blood meals around their roses, because they're rich and really make those roses grow. So, which substance is it? Rice water, not going to do much. Fish blood, that's going to be really stinky and a lot of nutrients.
You're also going to want to watch out with like bone meal or fish blood or blood meal or anything like that. You have a dog or like a really nosy cat, don't use it for your indoor plants because like the animal will just dig it up. It's not good.
That is very true. And I've heard stories of people even outdoors having trouble with that. So yeah, be aware. Potential downside.
Yeah, fish blood water doesn't sound very appetizing.
It's not for you to eat, it's for the plants.
Okay, that's
How
fair.
many fish do you have to like kill to like get a sizable amount of?
This got dark.
I was wondering if they were thinking about fish emulsion, which is like, the guts and everything from processing fish. And
like the leftovers of if you're gutting a fish.
Like, I was wondering if that's what they were talking about.
Honestly, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Velociraptor asks, how do seeds stay viable inside wet fruits like watermelon and cantaloupe? This is kind of interesting. It's a wet environment. You would expect in other wet environments seeds to not be happy in them, right?
Mm-hmm. And for at least like watermelons, and I'm sure it's with like many other seeds where they're stored inside of like a nice, wet fruit, is that they have a bunch of hormones inside of the like flesh of the fruit that inhibit seed germination. And so even if the seeds want to germinate because they're like, in this like water-filled environment, the flesh of the fruit's preventing that. I wish there was more fun details about it. There's like some weird hormone names, but I'm not even going to bother trying to remember them because they're long and awful. But yeah.
Okay. Rose asks, is it okay for earthworms to live inside potted indoor plants?
In my experience, they tend to not live for very long. In the couple of times I wasn't very careful about it, because they eat decaying plant matter. So there's not that much typically of decaying plant matter in my pots. And I feel like this might just be me, but my plants tend to dry out before I remember to water them, which worms don't appreciate. So I try to keep worms outside where they won't die.
But they're not going to harm anything, right?
I don't think so. I have heard some people claim that if they're starving, they'll eat like very small plant roots, but I've not seen that happen. They just kind of die, which is, not great.
So that would be okay, but worthless, or it wouldn't be.
Yeah, it's like, what? Can we avoid this? I don't know. I kind of like worms, so I don't really want them to die.
Quixa asks, if you were stuck on a deserted island with only 3 plants, which would you pick? And maybe so there's less pressure having to pick 3 food crops, we'll say that island has plenty of natural food, but maybe not your favorites.
Man, I'm still internally debating this. I'm not gonna lie. I can't remember who. Somebody mentioned a puncha, and you know what? I really like that answer because they're edible. They're an edible cacti, but they also have really cool flowers. And so, if this island doesn't have food sources, a puncha grow like an actual weed. And the thing is, like, they're super hardy, so like that's an option. I'd bring a coffee tree. I don't even care. You guys can judge me all you want. I don't care. I'd want a coffee tree. There's no way around that.
It's your island.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, those are like the top 2 easily, but I don't know. Like, I guess if I'm bringing a plant and I don't have to try starting it from seed, I'd bring a pawpaw tree because then I could find.
Oh, there we go. You finally get your pawpaw.
Yeah,
there we go.
I'm done with trying to get seeds of this thing.
Yeah.
Let me read some of these answers because this was hilarious. Corn, peanut, and chili plant. That's curry swag.
Corn is a great one.
Spice.
Corn is an excellent one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But chili plant,
yeah.
I would never.
Agree. You gotta have spice.
Exotic said sweet potato, tomato, and potato. And I like that.
Those are all great.
I could live off of that, I think.
You have to have potatoes, really.
Okay, like definitely a bit of Passi lore. For like, I think I said this before, but like a solid 4 months of school one time in university, I would like go to school at like 8 a.m. and I would just have coffee throughout the day, and I would drink just coffee, and I would get back home at like 9 or 10 p.m. and I'd realize I have to eat. And so I'd I'd make myself a poutine like every single night. And so I survived off of essentially potatoes, gravy, and cheese curds for 4 months straight. I didn't get scurvy. I did not get scurvy.
Good job.
So you know what? Potatoes and sweet potatoes? Like I'm jiving with that answer. Because like I could live off potatoes. I still love poutine too.
That is so delightfully Canadian. Okay, Velociraptor says sugarcane / stevia for sugar, a monstera, and a persimmon.
Those are all good. Those are all good.
Can't live without the sugar.
Yeah.
Which ones would you pick?
What, me? Oh, God. Yeah. I only answer the easy questions. This is not the easy question.
I think
flowers if the food is taken care of. I'm assuming there's plenty of potatoes there already, right?
Well, it says it has plenty of natural food, but maybe not your favorites.
Oh.
I'm assuming a bunch of coconut trees. I assume this island's like semi-tropical.
You know, I'm not a huge fan of coconut, but I think I might have to pick coconut because what am I going to drink?
Water.
Water, like salt water.
No.
There's a natural spring on the island, of course.
Oh, I haven't found it yet. That's the problem. Haven't gone on a walk.
Gotta explore first thing.
I think SpaceButler asked IG this because he's trying to divert the question. And I think I want to know what SpaceButler would bring to this island.
Oh, yes, SpaceButler.
Well, cotton. You guys are forgetting about practical things. So cotton, probably. Hemp.
To make yourself some underwear and a cute top.
Well, yeah, you need clothing because the food's taken care of, right?
All right. Yes. I didn't think of that.
Also, hemp seed is full of amino acids and like fatty acids and like oils. So like hemp seed, that is a great answer.
But do you need like a machine to weave everything? How do you make things? I don't know how to make things.
Definitely a skill, but you could figure it out.
I mean, is there internet on this island? Can I Google this? Do I have a computer?
I assume so.
Okay, of course.
That makes it significantly easier.
All right, what's your third item, SpaceButler?
I don't know, something healthy. Apples.
Okay. That's kind of a seasonal thing, but okay.
What kind of apples? You're not giving me enough details.
Ooh,
I mean, there are storage apples, so it doesn't have to be too seasonal.
Let's go with a Fuji apple.
Not a cider apple.
What?
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Hemp is cannabis, and a cider apple because like that's a pretty chill island. That's a pretty fun island. I'm
on a tropical island. I might as well enjoy myself while I'm doing all this weaving with all the cotton I've got.
Oh my god, this is getting out of control.
Dang, SpaceButler had so much better answers than me.
You guys are going after potatoes.
We love potatoes.
And a coffee tree.
Have you not listened to the other episodes? We love potatoes.
That's true. I mean, I can't fault you for the potatoes, I suppose.
If you could, you would grow like spaghetti if it was a tree.
Tomatoes and wheat,
basil, and yeah.
I guess, yeah. Even though you don't really like tomatoes, you love pasta sauce.
You know what? Maybe I'd switch up the apples with just garlic.
Seriously.
That way you don't even have to signal for help. People can just smell you.
Well, you can roast the garlic, right? You got an oven. You just have roasted garlic all the time.
If you're there alone, you don't have to worry about bad breath.
Yeah.
This was a fun question.
I really like this question. I kind of want to see what else everyone else is saying for like answers for that one. I saw a couple of them, and a couple of them were great.
Yeah, Kit Kat says coconut, pineapple, and yucca.
Oh, that sounds delicious. Yeah, I could jive it. That would be a fun island.
Well, maybe all your islands, they're close together, and you can like visit each other, and like pina colada here, something else there.
Yeah, go to the pina colada island.
Yes.
Yeah.
The sugar cane, pineapple, coconut island.
Oh yeah, and Passi has the coffee, so he can
I'm not
trade
sharing.
Oh yeah.
I'm not
with
sharing.
Velociraptor for the sugar cane.
I'm hard not sharing that coffee.
Oh no!
A coffee tree doesn't produce that much coffee over the course of a year. Like, I'm definitely not sharing that delicious thing.
Do you drink it black?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh wow, okay. I need lots of milk and sugar in mine.
Also, I heard coffee fruit is like a thing too, like the fruit around the actual like seed that we roast. I heard that makes a really delicious like juice, or that you can just eat that. If somebody who lives in a tropical environment where like they have coffee trees fruiting around them could just try it and tell me what it tastes like, I just want to know. I bet it tastes delicious.
Please, anybody listening to this, let Passi know in the comments.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't heard anybody who's tried that.
Yeah, I think there's like there's this one like shipped in juice where they make juice out of that pulp, and so like apparently people say it tastes great. But, yeah, really.
Does it taste? It probably wouldn't taste like coffee.
No, I don't think so. Right? Because like coffee, we roast it and whatnot, and that makes such a difference to the flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So if anybody lives in a zone that isn't mine, can just tell me about it, please.
And that's our show, folks. Thank you so much, Zappy and Passi. I had a great time talking about the equivalent of skin lesions of plants and various potato and coffee needs. And thank you for our audience for being awake and submitting all the questions. See you in the next one. Bye.